It's coming home. It's coming. Football is coming home. And welcome to Salisbury and Sweetnam's Sports Podcast. I'm Adam. Welcome, James.
Well, I am indeed James, and yes, it is coming home. We're all extremely excited. The belief in the country is growing by the day. Now, Adam, alongside being sporting analysts, we're also extremely good film critics. Now, this week we attended the Odeon Cinema to watch Solo, a Star Wars story. I thoroughly enjoyed the film.
Yes, absolutely. I really enjoyed the film also. I love a good Star Wars movie, whether it sort of goes off the beaten track or whatever. I don't overly care. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was nice to see Han in his younger days with a young flame. We're used to seeing him, of course, with Princess Leia, but he, of course, had a few flings in his younger years. Overall, the film really good, incorporated a few old characters. One who I'm not going to reveal, but a very big name from The Phantom Menace appeared for the first time in a very long time. And Chewbacca, of course, heavily involved in the story. We all love Chewbacca, especially your dad, who once dressed up as the man himself, didn't he?
He did, absolutely, yeah, to a Comic Con event. But yeah, Chewbacca, really heartwarming story about how Han, as he prefers to be called, Han Solo, met Chewbacca. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, tremendous story, and an improvement on the last Star Wars story. Moving on to the world of politics, and Adam, this is your forte. This week, big news, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un have come to some sort of resolution, and does Donald deserve a lot of credit for that?
Whatever you think about Trump, yes, he's a maniac. Yes, he's a loose cannon, but to be fair, he's done something here which every single president previously has failed to do, and that's tame the beast that is Kim Jong-un. So I'd like to congratulate the President of the United States, something I'll probably never do again.
Yeah, it's rare we give a compliment to Donald, but he deserves one this time around. Anyway, some saddening news. Rest in peace to the man who played Dirty Dan. Of course, one of the best actors in soap history, really. Dirty Dan, a tremendous character.
Absolutely, a real icon of all EastEnders. In the 80s, me and James weren't even born. However, we know about Dirty or Deadly Dan, a terrific character, and may the actor rest in peace.
Yes. Anyway, of course, we had a magnificent weekend if you're a father. What did you and your dad get up to on the special day?
We didn't actually see each other on the special day, so to speak, but we did go for a drink on Friday night. We ended up in the Stanley Arms and had a really good time.
Yep. How much time did you spend in the Stanley Arms?
Yeah, a couple of hours.
Oh, no catastrophes or disasters.
No ejections this week.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
You've come on leaps and bounds since your younger years of causing terror in the Stanley Arms bar.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. I didn't really do too much. We went sort of a family-based weekend, really. Luke officially finished his GCSE, so he celebrated at Bonbon's Cafe before Portugal-Spain, which was a tremendous game. He's back now as our technical producer, so hopefully we can produce a few sort of episodes that are quicker to be uploaded than they have been the last few weeks. Saturday night, The Stumble, my forest band, played in Rivington. Lovely scenery, and I'm not going to go into too much depth because the last time I told a story on that, it dragged on way too long. But of course, there were dancers in the crowd and 50-year-old women who were dropping way too low, for my liking, on the dance floor. Sunday, Father's Day, went to Beaconfell, had a lovely little walk, and finished with a curry in Clitheroe.
Can't beat it. Well done.
Anyway, moving on to the world of sport, the best event in the sporting calendar occurred again. And I'm, of course, talking about Soccerade. Absolutely fantastic, and I nearly had a heart attack when Anakin Skywalker walked onto the field.
Yes, I didn't endorse Soccerade last week. However, when we stopped recording, we actually caught about half an hour of the second period, and me and James haven't laughed as much in quite a long time. We saw Kevin Peterson Freddie Flintoff prancing around on a football field. Some of my cricketing icons, quite amusing because he clearly can't play football as well as he could play cricket. And yes, Anakin Skywalker, the actor of Skywalker, was involved.
Hayden Christensen.
Yes, and that was entertaining too. And also Neil Sutherland off the In-Betweeners was also a fantastic performance from him.
Yeah, real excellent player. Of course, Ollie Murs, terrible every single year. Not sure how he keeps getting into that England side. Pete Wicks, also a catastrophically bad player. Really, really awful. The penalty shootout, quite amusing. Bolt played well all game. He scored a lovely pen. Kevin Peterson, poor pen. Lee Mack, very stereotypical dad kick, to say the least. Hayden Christensen blazed one over the bar. I was nearly in tears. Paddy McGuinness missed a penalty. And Neil Sutherland, Blake Harrison, scored the winner. And it was an excellent penalty.
It was right into the net. That's quite Partridge-esque, actually. That's a really good memory for you, actually, James, because you haven't even got that written in front of you, so well done.
Yeah, I'm really, really good at retaining sporting information. Anyway, the World Cup got underway. Russia, of course, the host, kicked off with an excellent 5-0 win over Saudi Arabia. Really good to see the host nation doing well, although we have to presume that, like Alexander Povetkin, the bulk of the team are on steroids.
Well, yeah, potentially. I don't think the Arabians were that bad. I thought it was quite harsh. The scoreline didn't necessarily reflect how the game went. Russia deserved the 3 points, but I think the Saudi Arabians have come under unnecessary stick from the press.
Yeah, Talk Sport gave them a booty.
Yeah. I actually thought they played some pretty nice stuff early doors, and then became unstuck. The defence was a bit like a sieve.
Yeah, and this week has been a theme of late goals, and Uruguay nicked one at the last against Egypt, which was quite sad for the Egyptians, who I thought were potentially the better side in the game.
I can't say I watched it, but what I do know is that Suarez missed ample chances.
Iran defeated Morocco 1-0 in what could have been the worst stand of World Cup game we've seen in a while. Portugal-Spain, the game of the tournament, probably so far. Very exciting game. If you listened last week, you'll know I'm a very big supporter of the Portuguese. My second national team in this tournament. I really hope they do well. Support them very passionately. They started like a house on fire, as you suggested on Twitter, Adam. And they took the lead with a Cristiano Ronaldo penalty. Spain, of course, equalised. Portugal then went 2-1 up. 2-2 Spain, 3-2 Spain in the space of about 5 minutes. Portugal stayed in the game, kept playing well, brought on Ricardo Quaresma, who's always a good impact sub. And then at the last, Cristiano Ronaldo scored one of the best free kicks of his career.
Absolutely, I thought Spain were magnificent, actually. Relatively unlucky not to come away with the points. However, any team that involves Cristiano Ronaldo is going to always be in with a shout of being relatively successful. And when Ronaldo stood over that free kick, pulled his shorts up, breathed like Johnny Wilkinson would over a rugby ball, and struck over the wall, as Danny Murphy said he couldn't. And I also actually said to my brother, in Wings and Co. In town, I said he won't be able to go over the wall here. And guess what he did? He went over the wall. A quite sublime free kick, and just knew that it was going to go in one way or another.
Yep. It created a living room melee for me, as I always get behind the Portuguese boys. And overall, I think after those performances, the Spanish and the Portuguese have to be two of the favourites in this tournament, alongside some other nations who we'll get into. France defeated Australia 2-1, and your picks Iceland held Argentina to a 1-1 draw. Yeah,
it comes as no surprise to me, really. Iceland in a pretty great run of form in and out of the World Cup, and they proved really well drilled. And Argentina missed a penalty to hit the front once more, but to be fair to Iceland, they were thoroughly good value for their point.
Yep, and Nicholas Bentford, without Nicholas Bentford, Denmark defeated Peru 1-0, Croatia defeated Nigeria 2-0, Serbia 1-0 over Costa Rica, and in a surprise result, the Mexicans defeated Germany by 1-0.
Yeah, they could have had more as well. Mexico were fantastic. A flat performance from the Germans, and they've got it all to do in that group.
Yeah, and Carlos Vela has been a young star for way too long now, in my opinion. Still one to watch at the age of about 30, I believe.
Yeah, He was on to watch at Arsenal and then went over to Spain and continues to be successful.
Another shock result. The Swiss held the Brazilians to a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, Switzerland were extremely well drilled. But I've always said that Brazil are a real sort of myth of a side. I personally think they're overrated. Although they've got a lot of talent on that pitch, they might not necessarily gel as well as he could. And no real surprise as far as I'm concerned that result.
Quick one, is Tranquillo Barroneta still in the Swiss side? He was one of my favourites back in 2008. Played excellently in that particular Euros.
I honestly don't know.
Well, he was at Bayer Leverkusen, but I've not kept too up to date in Tranquillo Barroneta's career. And I like his name, as it rhymes with Viennetta, which is an excellent ice cream brand. Anyway, the Swedes defeated South Korea 1-0, and then we move on to our group. Belgium defeated Panama 3-0, and you're not a huge fan of the Belgium side.
No, not necessarily. I think they've got real stardom amongst their ranks. However, I just don't think they play as a team. You saw that in the first half against Panama. They were lethargic. They were slow in the build-up play. But to their credit, they came out in the second half, scored a very, very good early goal, and then they were on their way. A brace for Romelu Lukaku.
Now let's not get too excited, but I am fully in belief now, almost in full conclusion mode, that football is coming home. England beat Tunisia 2-1.
I couldn't agree more. I think England were absolutely magnificent against Tunisia on Monday night. They started beautifully. They were magnificent. And they could have scored 12 in the space of the first 12 minutes. Sterling missing that open net. Lingard must have had 40 chances as the match went on. But Kane struck England into the lead. A softish penalty, but a penalty, in my opinion, should have been given. And it was given to the Tunisians. And that was slotted away quite nicely. But England were going through the gears in the second half, trying to break Tunisia down. And they eventually did. A Harry Kane header. Leaving England all 3 points on the night, so I was absolutely delighted with that. What did you make of the penalty decisions, James?
Yeah, I feel the first one was wrong. I don't feel it was a penalty. I think it was a bit soft. I think England definitely should have gone in 1-0 up, because by no means was that worthy of a penalty. And I thought that Harry Kane was speared, and there's no other way to put it. He had a battle with the rated R superstar, and he didn't come out on top. And I'm not entirely sure why that wasn't given as a penalty.
Yeah, quite bizarre, isn't it? VAR is in use, and in my opinion, a striker getting wrestled to the floor is quite clearly a clear and obvious mistake made by the referee because he's not seen it, and therefore it ought to be a penalty kick. And also, he was rooked to the floor a couple of minutes later, yet again not being given. So that was a bit disappointing. But England got the result in the end, so terrific.
Yeah, it is really good, you know. And it's fantastic how the whole country can be utterly convinced that football's coming home when we're defeating Tunisia 2-1 with a header with about 2 or 3 minutes left from about 5 yards out.
It's different though, isn't it? Because England clearly put in what was a very encouraging performance all night, really. So yeah. Everyone's got that real belief in the players, but also the gaffer. He made a couple of really great changes. I thought Loftus-Cheek and Rashford making real impacts off the bench, spurring England to victory.
Yeah, it was a decent enough performance from England, especially in the first half an hour or so. But once again, as we step up, and I'm sure we will, I think we need to slightly up the level of standard of play we do. But there hasn't been too many sides that have stood out overall throughout the talk, because a lot of the big boys, e.g. Brazil, Germany, have had not too brilliant results. So I definitely think the competition is open for an English win, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to do it. I'd say I know with the bookies we won't be, but I would go out on a limb and say we are the favourites.
Okay.
That is my view.
It's a bold view.
It's bold, but I'm sticking with it.
Which I completely agree with. And in the preview to the World Cup, I suggested that the World Cup Jules Rimet Trophy was coming home. So I agree with that.
Yep, another shock result. Japan defeated a 10-man Colombia 2-1. And Senegal, another upset, defeated the Polish 2-1. So Japan and Senegal potentially qualifying for for that last 16.
Yeah, they're two pretty decent enough sides, and that means that England will come up against one of those 4 teams previously mentioned. Whether that's Poland, Senegal, Colombia or Japan, England will be in for a tough game if they progress out of the group. So yeah, roll on the last sort of 16.
Yeah, just a couple more topics I want to cover very briefly before we move on to the next sport. Lionel Messi didn't play brilliantly once again, missed a penalty. Why do you think he can never perform for his national country?
I don't necessarily know. He might come into the World Cup and have a terrific sort of tournament. I know in the Copa America he had a pretty good tournament, but missed a penalty in the final, and therefore people believe he had a poor one. No, I think he'll come good. Messi, he's too good at playing not to.
Yeah, I'm referring back to the Portuguese Rui Patricio, who's signed for Wolves. Excellent signing.
Yeah, really good piece of business from Wolves, who have a lot of money to spend and have connections in Portugal, so hence why they're bringing a lot of Portuguese stars over.
And lastly, VAR being investigated by FIFA. So, how do you think that one will go down?
Well, I've never been a big supporter of VAR, as you well know, and that was after the England game, by the way. Yes, it needs to be looked at, but it's a bit too late now during a World Cup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of trial and error with VAR to try and get the system working as fluently as hopefully it does down the line. Now, moving on to the cricket, and more glory for England as they've broken a record.
Yeah, the world record, the highest ever one-day international total, 481, an absolutely mammoth score as far as England are concerned, and the world of cricket is concerned, really. I don't think it's all that brilliant, though. Pitches are giving the bowlers absolutely nothing to work at, and the batsmen are just hammering the ball to all parts. But it's a world record, so congratulations to England. Congratulations to Owen Morgan, who became the fastest ever England player to a half-century, 21 balls. Some quite sublime hitting from the English captain. And yeah, England playing a real no-nonsense, no-fear brand of cricket in one day. It's refreshing to see.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And how have PCC got on over the weekend?
We had a terrific weekend at Poland Cricket Club. 4 wins on the trot for the club. The first 11 are defeating Torrizone by 9 wickets. The second 11 defeating Gregson Lane. The third 11 defeating Wyre first 11. And the fourth team defeating Charnock St James, second 11, so a terrific weekend for the cricket club. Hopefully we go again this weekend as well.
How did your performance go down?
I got 34 with the bat, so
relatively happy.
Not too bad, we take that. All in a winning cause, which is nice too. Something else to mention, just over the train tracks at Vernon's Carris, their fourth 11 were bowled out for 7.
7?
Yes, 11 men were bowled out for 7 in a cricket match. New Longton, I think it was their third.
Who is
11.
playing for this Vernon's fourth team?
Well, I don't actually know, but they were a decent side a couple of years ago. I got my first ever half-century against them. It doesn't look brilliant now, but back then they weren't too bad. But yeah, New Longton, third 11, hitting the winning runs without losing a wicket, and their afternoon was over at 2:30, so congratulations to them. And the game only started at 1:30. Quite bizarre. And also, Vernon's third 11 were defeated by a side called White Coppice, who hadn't won in something like 26 games, which is over a full season. So, not a brilliant weekend for Vernon Carris, but their first team did get the victory. So, well done to them. Good luck.
Yeah, I love how your cricketing analysis for this week has been positives for PCC and negatives for Vernon's.
Yes.
Yeah. Really tremendous.
That's local cricket.
Well, it is. And we love to cover the local sports as it's the backbone of our sporting talents for youngsters.
You've got real issues.
Anyway, moving on to the mixed martial arts. We've got another British representative in the welterweight division to join Darren Till, and it's Leon Rocky Edwards, and it's fantastic to see him finally get the opportunity that he deserves on the big stage. Now, he put together, I think, a 5-6 fight win streak, but nobody was really paying attention to Leon. He wasn't particularly good on the mic. He was just sort of saying, I'll fight with the UFC put in front of me. He was 4th down, I believe, on that UFC London card, and his career looked like, although he was doing really well, his career was sort of going nowhere. But he got on that mic at UFC London and called out Darren Till and made a really big deal how he wanted the fight. And he's not got the Darren Till fight, but the UFC is still taking notice that this man can be a star. And they've given him the Cowboy Cerrone fight in Singapore. And it's an absolutely huge opportunity for him. Cowboy, of course, a veteran. He'll fight anybody, any place, anywhere. But Leon's the prospect, and although it's a big ask and he's never fought in this level of competition before, I think Leon wins this fight in Singapore, which will be about dinner time for British fans, which is absolutely fantastic. So you can settle down, have your brunch, and enjoy the fight sports.
Yeah, it's quite a nice sort of once in a while treat to have a major sporting occasion happening at like lunchtime. I really enjoy it personally. Not that I'll be tuning in necessarily to the MMA, but like when there's like a boxing match on in like the early morning,
you're treated by Josie Parker.
You know, it's good, and of course watching your man get knocked out inside a round in Jamie McDonald's not necessarily nice, but at least the fight was on at a reasonable time.
Yeah, you'd be more upset if you'd got up in the early hours. But yeah, fantastic to see the growth of the sport and another British fighter making waves. So that truly is tremendous. Now, Adam, what would be your favourite brunch to enjoy whilst watching fight sports?
Got to be one of those ridiculous questions that I've ever been asked. I like a bacon sausage butty. It doesn't make too much difference. What's your favourite brunch to eat?
Well, around that sort of time, I quite enjoy a sausage bar. I know Daniel Hayes, who's an avid UFC fan, enjoys the night before's Domino's whilst watching midday fight sports.
Must have some money to be able to buy a Domino's every week.
You know, I've only ever dabbled with Domino's on the one occasion. And I think it's when you turned up to mine with some vouchers.
Yeah, and that was with me, yeah. And we got a pretty decent deal that night. So.
Yeah, pepperoni pizza. Quite enjoyable.
Yes.
Really was. Anyway, moving on to another British fighter. A legend, in fact. Brad One Punch Picket has had a tremendous career in the UFC. Would fight anyone at any time. Real exciting fighter. Boxing based. Even has a victory over Demetrius Johnson, who I ranted about last week. And he retired, unfortunately, last year off a free fight, I believe, losing streak. His career was sort of coming to an end. But he got the love of the fans in that last fight at the O2 Arena. And it felt like Brad could sail off into the sunset as a very popular fighter. But for whatever reason, he's made the decision that he can't cope with retirement. He wants to come back. He wants to continue fighting. He's signed for ACB MMA and he'll be debuting for them August 11th in London. And Brad's always exciting. Really like Brad. Was always a fighter that I would get up in the middle of the night to watch. However, his career has sort of come to an end, and I'm slightly worried whether this is sort of not necessarily a cry for help, but he just can't give it up. Slightly worrying when fighters come back at an older age, isn't it?
Absolutely. You only have to look at the Hitman Hatton for that.
Anyway, moving on to your favourite MMA fighter, Mr. Aaron Chalmers, the Geordie Shore man. And you've been an advocate for a very long time that he should fight CM Punk.
I have, yeah, but only because they're two of the fighters that I've heard of.
Yep. Well, he's not going to fight CM Punk, but a man who's been going back and forth with all week on social media is the man who defeated him in Chicago not too long ago, Mr. Mike Jackson. Aaron and Mike have been going back and forth non-stop this week, and it's looking like that fight could be on the cards.
That's actually gutting, that, because I was only joking when I talk about Punk Chalmers, but if he's going to fight the bloke who has just defeated a Punk, then that's a real kick in the teeth.
Yeah, anyway. I actually think that, believe it or not, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually wouldn't necessarily not get behind that being a headline event for Bellator, because I think that'd probably sell out the Newcastle Metro Arena if you sell it as, say, Aaron Chalmers wanting to prove himself, beat a man who, regardless of opposition, has won a fight in the UFC, then my Jackson say sort of, I beat one superstar from the America, I'm going to fly over to UK and do the same thing. So it could be a relatively big fight for Bellator if marketed in the right way, although at a poor standard.
Absolutely.
Anyway, moving on to the wrestling, and it was Money in the Bank, and that's always an entertaining matchup, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch Money in the Bank this year because I previously on Mondays I've had the day off college. However, now I'm doing some work, so unfortunately I just can't afford to lose my beauty sleep, unfortunately. So therefore I had to give up the opportunity to watch Money in the Bank. But yeah, always a very entertaining event and one I look forward to on the calendar.
Yep. I'm going to kick it off with the Bludgeon Brothers, who defeated Gallows and Anderson. Then the next fight on the card, Daniel Bryan is well and truly back, and he defeated Big Cass, which we both believed was a foregone conclusion, and it was.
Absolutely, yeah. Well done.
Bobby Lashley defeated Sami Zayn in under 7 minutes, and that's exactly how it should be.
Absolutely, Lashley, a legend of the sport.
The women took to the Money in the Bank match for another time. Some of the elite in the game: Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Ember Moon, Lana, Naomi, Natalya, and Sasha Banks. Some of the best in the world. All put in really good performances. Sasha Banks, some excellent moments. Natalya, a veteran. Naomi, sort of a female Kofi Kingston. Very energetic, willing to show off for the fans and fight in new and innovative ways. Lana had some good moments. Ember Moon, a new star. She was certainly in the frame. Charlotte Flair, a veteran. She put in a very good performance. Becky Lynch, very nearly nicked it, of course. The Irish woman, really good wrestler. She was so close to nicking it, but Alexa Bliss was the woman who captured the Money in the Bank title, and she proves once again why she's the best woman at this current era.
WWE question why everybody believes it's unrealistic, and that's why, because the Queen Charlotte Flair didn't win.
She doesn't have the athleticism to compete amongst the high flyers in the Money in the Bank event.
Bollocks.
Just a fact. Anyway, moving on. Roman Reigns defeated Jinder Mahal. Slightly sad for Jinder.
I am, because Reigns is just a nothing person for me.
Yeah, continues to get booed, although it's good to see him slightly lower down that card. Carmella defeated Asuka, and since losing to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, she's sort of gone into a bit of an irrelevance, really.
Yeah. For someone who the company have invested such a huge amount of time into, it's quite bizarre what they're doing now, really.
And I think the feud should hopefully finally be over as Styles defeated Nakamura once again in a last man standing match, as Nakamura was counted out for 10.
That's a real shame. Was his walk-on good?
His walk-on was splendid, as per usual. Lovely violins, which is an instrument that you play to a relatively high standard.
Absolutely, yeah. I've grown up playing the violin and yeah, really fantastic at it.
Yeah, tickets on sale now for the Salisbury Orchestra at the Guildhall in Preston.
Adam Salisbury's not dead, but alive with soul.
Get them now. Anyway, Ronda Rousey. We said last week a bit too early for her fighting in a championship match. But her in-ring performance was quite good. She went toe-to-toe with Nia Jax and was on the cusp of defeating her via armbar until Alexa Bliss turned up with a briefcase, smashed Ronda Rousey in the back, and then defeated Nia Jax herself to reclaim the WWE Raw Women's title.
And that's what's brilliant about Money in the Bank, because you just never know when it's going to be cashed in.
Yeah, my worst moment ever as a WWE fan. My first ever pay-per-view in about 2010, I think. Rey Mysterio went toe-to-toe with Jack Swagger in an unbelievable match. Rey had to fight off the ankle lock to an ankle which was already injured. Won the match. I was in absolute heaven. And then Kane cashed in the Money in the Bank and beat Rey Mysterio, to which I was almost in tears at.
The big red machine.
Yeah. Anyway, then, finally, the men's Money in the Bank match. Braun Strowman, Bobby Roode, another tremendous ring entrance, actually. He will not give in until he's victorious, but he was unvictorious this weekend. Anyway, then there was Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Kofi Kingston, Rusev, Samoa Joe, and The Miz. Some really good superstars in that match. The Miz came very close on a couple of occasions. running up that ladder, very close to getting that briefcase, but he couldn't quite do it. And unlike a lot of the superstars who spend ages beating around the bush and playing to the crowd as to when they should run up the ladder, The Miz does it straight away, doesn't waste any time, and that shows his experience.
Yeah, The Miz is a real class act. We all know that. I'm absolutely gutted that he didn't go on and win it. But we go again.
And we discussed your physique last week and how you're slightly muscle-bound, which restricts movement slightly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you still move well for a relatively big man. And now another man who does something similar is Samoa Joe, who is athletic as you can possibly be for a massive Samoan man. He had some real good moments and was close to collecting the briefcase. Very game, Samoa Joe, one of the only men who doesn't back down from Braun Strowman, but it wasn't to be for him on this occasion. Rusev, the Bulgarian, not entirely sure what his involvement is. I'm not a huge fan of the whole Rusev Day thing.
No, most definitely not. He used to be a really hated character. Now he's sort of loved, and Rusev Day, it's a bit bizarre.
Now, the New Day's representative was Kofi Kingston, one of the best high flyers of our current generation. It felt like maybe this was his moment to claim the Money in the Bank title. He's been around for a very long time, and it will be nice to see his career get the world title it deserves. And he was very close towards the end. He was the last man standing, but unfortunately he didn't quite make it. Now, a man who I'm not convinced is still alive this morning is Kevin Owens, as he was pushed off a ladder through a table. That's a hell of a lot of weight to go through one of them.
It is, but it's what we all watch Money in the Bank for. Fantastic.
Finn Balor, you know, it's weird with Finn, because very talented, obviously, but for me, not really getting the push he deserves.
No, yeah. I rate Balor. It's a bit like Owens, really. Needs that sort of trigger to be triggered. To be pulled back on them.
He needs to be offended. Anyway, then there's Bobby Roode, who put in a decent performance, but didn't have that much involvement in terms of actually winning the match. And the victor, of course, was Braun Strowman, who now surely has to take the WWE title off Brock Lesnar in the not-too-distant future.
Well, it depends if Lesnar goes back to the UFC. I cannot ever imagine a day where Lesnar loses a fight to Braun Strowman.
And then moving on to the world of the boxing, and we've both had a few choice words for this man over the last few years, but David Haye, the career finally came to an end, and what a run he has had.
Well, what a quite incredible career David Haye had. A cruiserweight, the lineal cruiserweight champion of the world, and then went on to defeat Valiev to be heavyweight king. A real talent, David Haye. Unfortunately, the career didn't end in a way which reflected his career as a whole. However, one thing's for sure is that he will go down as one of the most talented men to come out of this country.
Yeah, like you said, lineal cruiserweight championship, unified 3 of the belts, some tremendous performances there, beating Enzo Maccarinelli for the WBO title in an all-British affair, defeating John Marmot Mormon in France, another tremendous result for the Haymaker.
His greatest win.
Yeah, probably. He had to get off the floor, I believe, that night to do that. And alongside Evander Holyfield, one of the greatest cruiserweights to ever step foot on the planet. And then, of course, in the heavyweight division, defeated Valiev, like you said, in a match where he was incredibly undersized. And I believe that that wobble of Valiev is one of your favourite boxing moments.
It is, absolutely. Haye sending the big man for a little dance is a really great thing to watch on Boxing Gold. Ian Dark doing his absolute nuts.
Yeah. Then, of course, he lost the big one to Klitschko. Very saddening for David. And, of course, his popularity went drastically downhill when he got his broken toe out in the middle of the ring, which was one of the most pathetic yet amusing things I've seen in a boxing ring.
Yeah, a real sort of shame for David Haye losing to Klitschko comfortably, obviously, however. To be fair to him, it's not easy with a broken toe. I mean, I've had the same injury, and it hurts, but you don't necessarily want to bring it up after being involved in a punch-up with another man.
Have you ever been bowled out and got your ingrowing toenail out in disgust at the result?
I haven't actually, because I don't actually have that ingrowing toenail
No, I mean back
anymore.
in the day.
No, I didn't, no.
And then, of course, he fought Derek Chisora in his last fight. He turned up at a Munich press conference after Vitaly defeated Derek, and then got in a scrap with Derek when he proved he's got a bit of street fighting credentials, David. Although he did use a bottle to assist him, and he also threw a tripod at his then trainer Adam Booth. But yeah, it was an incredible night that where Derek put in an unbelievable effort against Vitali. He didn't quite get the job done, but then found himself defeated slightly more heavier by David, although weapon involved. How do you think that night involved the crew of David Haye? As of course, he was always a showman, and that moment helped sell one of the biggest fights in British history at West Ham Stadium with Derek Chisora.
Yeah, most definitely not one of Haye's brightest moments of his career. Also, Chisora had a long, hard fight with Klitschko that night. So, no real surprise that he couldn't defeat a fresh David Haye outside of the ring.
Yeah, so then David, of course, beat Derek at Upton Park in one of his best performances. The first man to ever stop Derek Chisora, and Derek's lost 8 times now, and one of the hardest men in boxing. He's still only lost 2 by knockout. The other one being to Tyson Fury, where he's pulled out. But David, the only person who knocked him out with 1 shot. And then if David's career ends there, how do we look back at him if he never comes back and fights Tony Bellew?
We absolutely look back at David Haye as right up there with one of the greatest we've ever produced. Which I still do, because I've got a long memory.
Yeah. So do you believe it's slightly tainted his legacy with the new fans losing to Tony Bellew?
It has with the new fans, yeah, but people who are open-minded and a bit more mature will see that realistically Haye was incredible in his heyday.
If you'll pardon the pun.
Yes, absolutely.
But then, of course, he pulled out of 2 fights with Tyson Fury and another with Manuel Shaw, and people began to go off the haymaker. But then after 3.5 years back, he battled injury after injury, spinal injuries where Wheatley went up and down in height from 6'1" to 6'3" and then back again. He had disc problems in his back and a huge issue with his shoulder, but he battled back. He took unlimited opposition in Mark Damori and Arnold Jurjai, which he got a hell of a lot of stick for. He had a decent rivalry with Shannon Briggs, but it never materialised into a fight. And then he took on Tony Bellew. And for somebody who relied on speed and reflexes, at that age, it just wasn't there anymore for the haymaker.
Yeah, and the body let the haymaker down on the 2 occasions he met with Tony Bellew. But don't take away anything from Bellew. He beat the man that was in front of him. However, I couldn't get Ain't No Stopping Us Now out of my head for about 3 days after he announced his retirement. A fantastic walk-on.
Yeah, it was really one of the best. But yeah, although he did lose to Tony Bellew, and it's tainted his legacy ever so slightly, what we do know about him now, and what he's got a lot more respect for, is that David was known for a man who didn't have much heart after what he did with Vladimir Klitschko. But he proved in both Bellew fights that he has that, and he has it in abundance.
Absolutely.
As he battled on with that horrible Achilles injury in virtually both fights. So, overall, David Haye, one of the very best fighters we've ever produced. And although we've had a few words to say about him over the course of our boxing fan lifetime, he's always been around, David Haye. We respect him, and good luck in retirement. Now, moving on to the new breed in Newcastle. Josh Kelly defeated Chris George for the Commonwealth belt. Josh Kelly looked alright, took a couple of shots. He looks very slick, but at the same time I'm worried with Josh Kelly because at world level I don't think he'll get away with the sort of hands down style that he's got now. As Chris George caught him a couple of times at the weekend. And then Lewis Ritson, who's looking like the future of British boxing, stopped Paul Hyland in just 1 round in front of his hometown fans, who went absolutely ballistic as he came out to the Newcastle United anthem. And he really is looking like the future Lewis, who only took 4 rounds to defend the British title 3 times.
Yeah, Lewis Ritson is a real class act. I think Josh Kelly was the main event, wasn't he, on that card? It's absolutely outrageous, really.
Mistake for me.
Yeah, because Ritson really has stolen the hearts of the people in the North East. And yeah. More so than Kelly, anyway. He's more destructive.
So, Lewis, how far can he go? We don't quite know yet. Although he does have his chin up in the air, he's certainly got destructive power and he's walking through people. Names mentioned by Hearn as possible next fights. Victor Ortiz, who's been in with Mayweather, and Ishmael Barroso, who we all know against Kevin Mitchell, has incredibly powerful hands himself. We have actually felt them at an open workout in Manchester, and he most certainly has the hardest hands I have ever felt in my life.
Absolutely, it was like I was touching a lamppost. Yeah. Absolutely incredible sort of hardness.
Yeah, brutal from Ishmael. Do not receive a bust off him if you ever meet him, because it hurts. Anyway, so yeah, Lewis versus Ishmael for me would be an absolutely tremendous fight.
Yeah, it would, absolutely. It's a fight that I'd really enjoy watching, and a fight that Ishmael Barroso will most definitely take, because he loves a payday off Matchroom.
Yeah. Loves a punch-up too. And then McDonnell, Gavin, of course, took on Stewie Hall. Gavin takes another step in getting another world title shot. Looked excellent. But Stuart Hall, a man who has been absolutely tremendous throughout his career, won a world title, and I think we both believe he did enough that night against Lee Haskins to probably become a 2-time world champion, but he's looking slower and slower, and although he's as hard as they come, I'd like to see Stuart call it a day.
Absolutely. A really great career.
Joe Joyce took on Avika Bakirin at York Hall. Although David Haye is retired in a boxing sense, he's not going to put that mic down anytime soon, as he's drumming up interest in both Joe Joyce and Michael Venom Page. Joe Joyce looked okay, but the opponent there wasn't much. And although he'd taken a few fights like Dylan White and Tony Bellew, Marat Gassiev a longer distance, he didn't seem to have much interest in the fight with Joe Joyce, who we'd like to see step up soon if they can get him the correct opponents. And I think it is difficult to get opponents for Joe, because people don't want to fight a novice who has that much talent. But MVP was on the card as well. He isn't fighting anyone in the world of mixed martial arts. He isn't fighting anyone in the world of boxing. This whole sort of undefeated in both sports myth is a bit of bollocks, really, because he's not fighting any level of competition in either sport, so not too much interest from the fans in MVP. Now moving on to another extremely talented man. Errol Spence walked through Carlos Ocampo inside just one round. And just a week out from Terence Crawford's performance against Jeff Horn, this is a statement from Errol, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Errol Spence, one of the most talented men around at the moment, right up there in terms of pound for pound for me. So yes, refreshing times.
Now into the world of this coming up weekend, we go to the O2 Arena, and Frank Warren has lost his headliner with Martin Murray and Billy Joe Saunders. We're both pretty appalled by what Billy did, pulling out of 2 fights against Martin Murray and pretending he had an injury, which we're pretty sure he didn't have. He sort of wanted that Gennady Golovkin fight, which he hasn't got now. Martin had to spend time away from his family for 2 training camps, so pretty gutting for Martin. But after that, Martin Murray was offered out in a street fight by Billy. And who wins a street fight for you out of those 2?
Yeah, we spoke about this in the past. And
the train journey to Manchester.
Yeah, and it's a cracking sort of matchup for me, because you've got a really hard man in Martin Murray, and you've got a travel in BJ who quite clearly will be sort of experienced in the art of street fighting. So for me,
toss up.
I'm undecided.
Yeah.
I'd probably just side with Billy Joe.
Yeah. Martin, a man who, for example, if you were back at school, you'd refer to as probably the hardest lad in the year, you'd imagine.
You'd imagine so, yeah.
Yep. But he takes on Roberto Garcia. It's a very good fight for Martin, although late notice. He gets a shot at the WBC silver title. It's a hard fight, but we're both hoping that Martin comes through and gets the win.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a likeable bloke.
Yeah, we all like Martin Murray. And if there's any career that deserves a world title, it's that of Martin Murray's. Now moving on to the undercard, Daniel Dubois, Frank's young prospect, the man he's trying to make into the next Anthony Joshua. He has a slight step up against Tom Little, who is they're competing for the vacant English Championship. And although Tom isn't necessarily the most talented man in the world, he's extremely game, and it'll be the first time Daniel Dubois is fighting somebody who's coming to win. And it's also an excellent test for Ben Davidson, who's Tom Little's trainer. So let's see what he can do against a talented prospect. And it's good to see Daniel taking big step-ups at this stage.
It is, absolutely, yeah. Look, he's a really talented bloke, a real up-and-comer. So, yeah, he will be a very, very good fighter, and he will progress through these sort of levels.
Anthony Yard is fighting a southpaw called Sek, and I have no interest in this fight, so I'm not going to cover it, because Anthony Yard is just not taking the step-ups he should. He's fighting journeyman after journeyman, and it's beginning to get a little bit disappointing, because he goes on and on and on about how he's the best in Britain and how he's got a good world ranking, but he's not willing to prove it in the ring, which is a massive shame. Now, O'Hara Davis was meant to be fighting Josh Lever this weekend, but Josh has had to pull out due to a break in boxing. Something in his medical reports wasn't right, so we wish him all the best. But O'Hara Davis is back fighting Kamanga, who's only got 1 loss on his record. So a good opponent for him, and it's interesting to see how O'Hara is going to bounce back after the whole sort of controversy with the Sun newspaper.
Yeah, I don't like O'Hara Davis, but he's a relatively talented man, so hopefully he comes back and produces some good skills.
Yeah, I think he was a bit thrown under the bus by Eddie Hearn with the whole Sun thing. He brought up the Sun newspaper against Tommy Coyle, and people were going ballistic because O'Hara Davies has had a sort of rivalry with Liverpool. So, obviously, they were saying that's very offensive to bring up that particular newspaper. However, O'Hara brought that up due to the fact that Tommy Coyle had had a run-in with the Sun himself. Tommy Coyle's from Hull.
He's from Hull, yeah.
Yeah, so it was due to the fact that somebody within Tommy Coyle's camp or team committed a crime, and the Sun reported it, so that's why O'Hara brought it up. So I didn't really have much relevance to the Scousers, so I think he was thrown under the bus a little bit there, O'Hara. But he's back now, and let's see how he deals. Anyway, the rematch is finally on. Canelo versus Gennady Golovkin. It was a bit like transfer deadline day. They finally got it over the line. And are you happy to see this fight back on?
Every single podcast we seem to be talking about this. It's an okay fight. For me, I was happy with the decision that was... I was happy by what I saw, and that was a comfortable win for Golovkin. But of course, the boxing world will not have a loss for Canelo on his record other than that from Mayweather. So it's bizarre.
So, somewhat bizarre, but it's also the biggest money-making fight in boxing, so you can see why everybody wants it on.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the build-up, Gennady Golovkin, of course, being the man who is being beloved by the fans at the moment due to the fact that he's not the drug cheat in this situation. People believe, the Canelo drug tests were in fact correct and he is a cheat. But, bizarrely, they're not selling it on that. Two fighters who don't like each other. Eddie Hearn pointed out that the Americans never learn. They're not doing a face-off because the two fighters don't want to see each other. But ultimately, rivalry sells, and they're not taking advantage of this, which is a big problem in American promotions. In terms of what that means for other fighters, Billy Joe Saunders misses out and he's left in complete wasteland because he can't take the Martin Murray fight, and a big fight with Golovkin and Canelo's off the table. Daniel Jacobs is taking on Sergey Derevyanchenko for that IBF title, so it's going to be difficult to see where Billy goes from here. Anyway, moving on to Josh Taylor, one of the youngest and best talents in the United Kingdom, the Scottish superstar, the second coming of Ricky Burns. Scotland has a new hero. He's taking on Victor Postol, a former world champion, in a big fight in Scotland. They should sell out the Hydro, and if he wins this, he'll well and truly be at world level. Very tough fight for Josh. He's looked very special so far, but Victor Postol's only lost once, and that was to Terence Crawford. So a very, very tough fight to Josh, but we're hoping he can come through. We were debating whether this was a pay-per-view worthy fight, Dylan White versus Joseph Parker. And this week we've had the first few announcements of the undercard. Firstly, Katie Taylor defending her world title. Conor Benn in a rematch with Paynold, who probably deserved a draw in that original fight. Conor Benn, of course, getting a wide decision on a Matchroom card. Not brilliant, but that was it. Josh Buatsi taking a big step up against Ricky Summers. Kell Brook is back against Brandon Hutt. Relatively poor fight for him. We'd have liked to see him against slightly better opposition. And Derek Chisora takes on Salisbury-Takam. Probably the most interesting fight on the bill outside of the main event. And it's two sort of fringe world level fighters trying to get one last shot at the big time. What do you think of the card, and does this help the pay-per-view?
I think it's a terrific fight for both men, actually. And the Takam and Chisora fight. Two men who are looking to get back into that sort of world title mix. And Chisora just keeps getting these opportunities. So, yeah, all the best to Del Boy.
Yeah, I have to make Carlos a slight favourite. Who'd you be going with at this early stage?
Yeah, Takam's probably the better fighter. However, you never know in this country. If it goes the distance, Chisora could get a bizarre card win. Who knows?
No, a man who you would have congratulated, but unfortunately you're blocked by on Twitter. The career of Paul Smith came to an end, and he's had a decent British level career.
An absolutely world-class career. A really great man.
Yeah, Paul Smith maybe should have been a world champion that night against Arthur Abraham, but it wasn't to be. He's had some good fights at British level, and we wish him a happy retirement. Now, a man who is back, it's Lucas Big Daddy Brown. He's back in Australia in front of his hometown fans in Sydney. He's taking on Roger Izontore, who's 12-6, but those losses have come against a high level of competition. And it's good to see Lucas back. He's made adjustments of training, He's working harder, taking his diet more seriously, and we're hoping he can get back to some sort of decent level.
Yeah, to a certain extent. If he looks pretty good in his next fight, I'd urge him to carry on. If not, if he looks slightly out of shape, then I'd encourage him to go out on a good win and retire.
Yep. Now YouTube boxing is back. There was a press conference in LA to announce KSI versus Logan Paul and his little brother Comedy Shorts Gamer against Jake Paul. The conference, very bizarre. Shannon Briggs, the host. Shannon, of course, a two-time heavyweight champion of the world, and nobody seemed to know who he was in that predominantly YouTube fan crowd. The trash talk was some of the worst I have ever seen, ever. Really, really poor. Shannon sort of acting like it was good trash talk, trying to hype up the fight. I think he'd be a good promoter, Shannon. He's got that about him. But yeah, very bizarre. The Americans were chanting Walmart and "You are Britain's mistake." It's just really basic trash talk, just calling each other like just stupid juvenile insults. But ultimately, this is what sells for the youngest generation. And unfortunately, in terms of numbers, this will probably be one of the biggest fights in boxing history.
Yeah, it's just bollocks, isn't it?
Yeah. I think between them, the two main eventers have 17 million subscribers each, and the two co-main events have about 14 million. So this will probably sell at the Manchester Arena and probably do about 8 million views.
Yeah.
Bizarre, but this is what YouTube boxing is. It creates views, and hopefully a few of those fans will develop some sort of interest in the actual sport. Now, moving on, Dave Allen had an absolutely humongous weekend of sport, and unfortunately he was defeated and is no longer boxing's best table tennis player, as he was defeated by the Jackal, Carl Frampton.
Yes, he was.
Very sad for Dave. He's gone on and on about how he's the best table tennis player in the sport, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. He had home advantage at Doncaster Bowling Alley, but it wasn't enough to defeat Carl. But he's got a bigger task ahead of him this weekend as he travels to Paris to take on Tony Yoka, the Olympic gold medalist, and we're all behind Dave. Big ass, but we're all hoping that somehow he pulls this off.
Yeah, all the best to Dave Allen. It's a terrific opportunity. If he gets the win against the Olympian, then there you go. He's right there on the stage. However, he won't get knocked out because he's got a granite chin, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, and always, if you're losing, you're learning. So hopefully you can get a bit out of this. And, you know, he's still young in his career, still got a lot of work to go. Very charismatic man, so he's going to get opportunities no matter what. Final bit of boxing news. The card for Northern Ireland was finally announced. The headline, disappointing for me, Carl Frampton versus little-known Australian Luke Jackson.
Yeah, I've not heard too much about Luke Jackson either. But it's all about Carl Frampton returning back to his homeland, which is great for those involved with Carl Frampton and his supporters. So.
Disappointing in terms of he's actually taken a bit of a step back from Nonito Donaire to fight Luke Jackson. Of course, he's not particularly well known, but ultimately I suppose it's his dream to fight at Windsor Park. None of the champions were currently available, so he couldn't have fought for a world title no matter what. A lot of interest developed in Twitter in the days before that Scott Quigg maybe could get the ask for a rematch. I would have liked it to have been Scott Quigg. The first fight I don't think was quite as bad as it was made out to be. Scott put in a decent performance in the second half of the fight. But Carl's gone for Luke Jackson, who's unknown, but Luke will hopefully give it all he's got. He's an ex-Olympian. Within his first year of boxing as an amateur, he was a bronze medalist in the Commonwealth Games. And interestingly enough, he actually roomed with Jeff Horn at the Olympic Games, and Jeff Horn was a man who defeated a legend in Manny Pacquiao at Suncorp Stadium. So Luke will be hoping to produce a similar upset win in a stadium in Northern Ireland against another humongous name. Co-main event, Paddy Barnes gets his chance at a world title. In just his sixth fight, he takes on Christopher Rosales, and it's Lomachenko-esque that he's taken it so early in the career.
It absolutely is, yeah. Yeah, Lomachenko famously tearing up professional boxing so early. And can the young Irishman do the same?
Yeah. Paddy Barnes, young in his pro career, but relatively old in terms of actual age. He's in his mid-30s now, and we're all hoping that Paddy Barnes can get the victory on the night, as it will define his boxing career if he can pick up that WBC title. Anyway, the final man involved in the triple header, Tyson Fury, is back, and we're all hoping he can take a step up in a fight that's massive for him, as he has Belfast roots. He's performed at the SSE Arena multiple times. We want to see him against decent opposition this time round.
We do, but we don't want to see him in with too decent opposition. We want Fury to keep getting that ring rust away, keep getting the rounds in, and hopefully he will become the great that we know he is.
Final topic of the day, it's Love Island time. Anyway, Love Island time. A big week in the Villa in Spain. Firstly, a lot of controversy. Let's start off with Eyal. I think he's a terrible human being. I don't like his perm. I don't like this energy bollocks. I don't like this I'm a deep thinker. I'm sick of it. Don't like it. Don't like vibes. I've had enough of him. Get Eyal out. I thought he was horrible to Alex.
It's very amusing, actually. I'm pretty sure last week James said that Eyal's alright or something.
No, I said he was a bellend last week.
Alright, fair enough. Well, yeah. Yes, it's not been a brilliant week for Eyal. He's sort of stolen Megan from Alex's grasp, which is, I suppose, what he's in there to do, but we both like Alex, so it's a bit of a shame. Yes, his energy thing can grind on some people. Absolutely a bit annoying.
Yeah. Eyal was very sly about it as well, kissing That is the most bizarre tweet you've ever shown me. Read that out to give people... Stuffed sausage media are liking our tweets.
Yeah, on the podcast Twitter, who wins Group G in the World Cup was liked by Stuffed Sausage Media.
Yeah.
Quite a hilarious Twitter.
Good to have stuffed sausage behind us. Always love a stuffed sausage.
Yes, I was tweeting about horse racing, actually, and Tracy's pussy liked my tweet.
Tracy's pussy?
Yeah, it was actually a cat lover called Tracy. Quite a
yeah, but that's a misleading.
It is, yeah.
A misleading account name. I thought that would have been a bit of a sort of catfishing account.
If you're pardon the pun.
But it's nice that you actually clicked on the account and had a look.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So anyway, Eyal very sly, especially in the way he kissed Megan right in front of Alex. I thought it was a bit brutal, to be fair. Not very nice.
No, yeah, really rubbing Alex's face in it. So. Not got too much time for that.
Yeah, and then he had the nerve to have a go at Alex for calling Megan over for a chat. Really being a hypocrite there, Eyal.
Yeah. A complete knobhead.
And then, of course, Adam and Charlie decided that they'd take acts into their own hands and gave Alex the opportunity to talk to Megan while talking to Eyal about spirits and stars. Of course, then the next day, Eyal called the lads over, had a massive go at them. But of course, Charlie was able to beat him at every single corner. It showed a lot about Charlie. He defeated Eyal in that argument quite comfortably, I believe.
He did, yeah. But then he went.
Yeah, he did. He did, very emotional. Who else? Megan, not really a big fan of her. She, of course, also kissed Eyal in front of Alex. Of course, Eyal went in first, but she also pulled Eyal back in. So she's also to blame.
I don't mind Megan. I think she's really good looking.
Well, she is, but that's not necessarily the point. Georgia would probably be a bit annoying if you're in there.
Yeah, I won't be a fan.
But I think Megan's being a bit of a bitch, to say the least. Georgia was clearly joking when she was talking about, her head turning, and Megan had to try and make a big deal out of it. So I'm not a huge Megan fan. I don't think she's offering much to the programme.
I think the thing with Georgia is that she's okay to watch sort of an hour's TV worth, but if you're living with her day upon day, you'd be extremely infuriated by it. You'd literally be chucking her into the pool, not her jumping into the pool.
Yeah, at the same time, though, it must get boring in there, and you're looking for something to do.
And that could go one of two ways. You could join in with Georgia and try and have a laugh, or you could be absolutely livid with Georgia.
How do you think you'd be coping in there now? Because I'd probably be climbing over the wall.
Yeah, I'd be climbing into something.
Alright, that's very optimistic of you.
Yeah.
Anyway, who else? Adam's had a bit of controversy this week. He's been trying... Well, his head is potentially turning towards Zara. Directly after Rosie and Adam had some fun under the covers. So, would that be controversial of Adam, or do you feel that he needs to give Zara the opportunity to get to know her?
Well, ultimately, it's all a game, innit? So, lads will be lads, ultimately, and their heads can be turned, especially in that villa, especially with those personalities.
Wes and Laura, I saw for it from day one. I knew there was no spot there. And Wes seems to have some sort of interest in the new girl.
Yeah, is it Ellie?
Ellie,
yeah,
who currently I would couple up with. I like Ellie. She got good family values and would cook breakfast for her man. So well done to her.
You said man?
Her man.
Alright, I thought you said man.
So yeah, I'm behind Ellie at the moment. I think she's the nicest girl in there. So yeah, I like Ellie.
I don't mind Ellie. Yeah. I don't think she's the nicest girl in there. So I like Danny Dyer.
Yeah, Danny Dyer's quite a nice girl, and we'll get on to her ever so shortly, because I believe her and Jack are the front runners by an absolute mile. And I think if I was Danny Dyer, the father, I'd be very happy watching her relationship blossom.
Absolutely. I won't be overly pleased with the impression that Jack's been doing of Danny, actually. Of him in Football Factory, which is quite amusing. But yeah, I really like Jack and Danny. I think they're a lovely couple, and I think Jack has a lovely personality because he really amuses me and really entertains me.
Yeah, he's the only one with any sort of banter, really, isn't he, Jack?
Yeah.
Now, two of the biggest mysteries of the week. Firstly, why on earth did Niall leave the villa? He left without a trace, to be honest.
And that was for family reasons.
And what on earth does Wes do for a living day to day? We know he's some sort of engineer, but he can't talk about his daily activities on national telly. Very bizarre. Is he doing something controversial, perhaps?
I don't think he'd be doing something controversial, just maybe something confidential.
And I have no idea what that is. Hopefully somebody leaks that to the press, because I'm relatively interested. Samira isn't having much luck. She's still struggling. I'll be honest, I can't see her finding her dream man.
Yeah, she tried to sort of just make Alex feel bad about himself when he was making an effort with the new girls. As to that, gave a poor impression of Samira in my eyes. So yeah, I never really liked her at the start. Sort of warm to her now. Not a fan again.
Georgia and Josh going relatively well. I think in terms of maturity, though, there's too big a difference there. I think George is quite a nice girl, just a bit misunderstood, and Josh might be a bit too laid back.
Yeah, Josh is a bizarre character, really.
Yeah. Lastly, I think Alex is going to pull tonight, so the whole nation is behind him, even more so than they are behind the English national team. We all want him to score, and I believe he does that on tonight's episode.
Yes, absolutely. He kisses Ellie, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
That's probably a cracking couple in your eyes, two of
brilliant.
Your Love Island idols.
My Love Island idols. Always dreamt of being similar to Alex. Of course, in terms of being a doctor, I'm currently at med school studying, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be a heart surgeon within the next month or two.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, and I think that's it for Love Island this way. I don't think there's much more to comment on. No. Oh, Hayley and Charlie gone. Yeah. So that's the end of the
Yeah, delightful to get rid of the scowl. So Charlie was okay, so slightly saddened to see the back of that. Maybe he'll come back as a wild card later on in the season.
So you see the Hayley with the talking about Essex and Liverpool and all that sort of stuff. What's a country? What's a
it's pathetic.
It's fake.
It's awful.
There's no way a woman in her mid-20s who got B's in her A levels doesn't know that England is a country and Liverpool is a city. Yeah, just doesn't happen.
Apparently Essex is a continent or something.
Yeah, ridiculous. Not for whatever reason she feels the need to put on an act, but for a girl who said earlier in the week, "What's an earlobe?" I've had enough of her, so it's time to see her go, and it is, because she's gone. So that's the end of the Love Island talk this week. That's the end of the podcast. To play us out, here we go again. Good luck, Martin Murray. We hope you get the victory. Goodbye.
All the best, and goodbye.
I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been. I'm hanging on to promises and songs of yesterday. Made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. So here I go again. Here I go again. Though I keep searching for an answer, never seem to find what I'm looking for. Oh Lord, I pray you'll give me strength to carry on, to know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. So here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter I was born to walk alone. Made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. So here I go again. Here I go again. Just another heart in need of rescue, holding on to love's sweet charity. And I'm gonna hold on for the rest of my days. Know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. Here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter I was born to walk alone. And I made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again.